They call a dude sicko, branded as a schizo in the flesh. My thoughts are all beyond what you would guess. Talented, 100 statement, might as well call me the running vet. Without the accolades, I never fret. Success of the 90s, so you need to put respect on it. Learn for speech and godly tongues of 1% confessing it. Lyrically, Mikey seems to be a hot commodity. An oddity was called a prophet by the ones who follow me. Social media's in a distance, in an instant. Blessed with the business, messing me go missing. Branded by my verbal steeds, creates a need, nah, I mean. It's vital to assure my every need. Pathetic every enemy, I'm not making an enemies with any who define me or proceed to waste my energy. Possibly you could relate, most likely you'd exacerbate. Any problem you encounter in your life, you demonstrate. Yeah, I go dumb, yeah, nigga, I go dumb. Yeah, I go dumb, yeah, nigga, I go.
Yo, what's up, guys? It is Michael Seuss with Bars and Joysticks, along with Paco Escobar and our friend from Glyph, RJ. We're going to give you guys a very special episode of Behind the Panel today with our boy RJ here, and he is a game developer from the game Glyph, which is right now on the Nintendo Switch. RJ, would you like to, give a little introduction to our guest? Tell everybody about yourself, man.
Yeah, see if I can match your energy. It's pretty late here in Denmark, so I'll see if I can bring myself up to your levels. Hi, RJ, also named as Rasmus. I work on the production called Glyph, currently out on the Nintendo Switch as our first Nintendo game on that console. Released February 1st in the States and across the Americas for everyone to enjoy. I work on the team mainly in regards to communication, marketing, but also being in the team. My responsibility seems to spill over to whatever is needed at that time, anything from graphic design, videos, social media and stuff.
Interesting. Interesting. That's a lot of, I would say that's a lot what I personally, kind of do myself. So it's nice seeing someone kind of like you guys being a independent developer. And me and Seuss actually started playing the game. Today I shared it, like we linked Switch accounts, like I got it yesterday. And I was very surprised at how addictive this game is. I'm not just saying that because we're collaborating right now. As a you see, I got the shadow behind me, so I like my platformers. I'm kind of like a little invert on the, but I got my shadow behind me, so I love platformers. I got kind of like a little monkey ball type of feel, but it was way different experience. Another thing that was, I would say, was a really interesting aspect of your guys' game was how clean it looked on handheld. It's one of the best looking handheld games on the Nintendo Switch market, hands down. There's no pixeling. Everything is very high resolution. I was playing the tutorial. I was very sucked in kind of like to that desert world you guys had.
Oh yeah. And
as I was going more into the tutorial, I was actually like surprised how early the game got difficult and how I had to really start using the mechanics to jump. And I was like, yo, I can't, because I was like, oh, this game is sweet. I was kind of like, yo, this game's a little easy. You know what I mean? I could beat this probably like in a couple of hours, if I just sit here on my Switch. And I'm like, okay, wait, I'm dying a lot of times. I'm like,
on the tutorial, I was dying a lot too.
Start moving.
Even as simple as just in that first part when you were going up the ramp, it took. There'd be times I would clear it and then I would go directly into the lava, and then there are the sharp turns throughout other parts of the tutorial where I would fall, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be dying in a tutorial. But one of the first questions that I personally had asked you was, Paco actually mentioned it before, that there was a little bit of a resemblance with Super Monkey Ball. Yeah. And I actually wanted to ask, what was your the team's inspiration for making this game?
Well, we are a pretty diverse team coming from like our childhood, so it's very normal to like pull from the inspirations we have playing in our childhood and what we bring into the game. From the monkey ball angle, I totally see, because of the momentum of how the ball moves, like slow start, but it build up momentum and it's slow to begin again. That becomes so ingrained in your mentality when you see this sphere and see the movement. I can totally see why people like, oh, it's like Super Monkey Ball. I'm like, oh, thank you, because it's a really good game. So any resemblance on purpose or not is totally a good thing for us. as for inspirations, like especially like the aesthetics, as far as I can remember, what the art director told me is he pulled a lot of early Zelda games of like how you can just like get a lot of like
that's
the
interesting.
the early 3D platformers of that era. Like how do you build like this mood and atmosphere using like very like low poly assets, but like how do you pull it off just with simplicity using the mostly like good shapes but colors and lights, and how do you all put it all together for like this kind of like atmosphere that we've tried to make different for each level. And of course also of the whole audio design on top of that, where I often hear described like Glyph does the whole thing from both like heart pumping action to like, oh, I'll just want to relax and just kind of get absorbed now in this world. And that's where small inspiration comes from, just like this whole like enthrallment of like you just turn off the brain and just kind of there to kind of distance ourselves from any kind of too casual experience. We want people to kind of go to this weird world and hang out with all the robots and alien designs.
Yeah, because that's one thing I noticed was, even though, and that's interesting you said that as far as the inspiration for Zelda, and kind of like that I would say kind of like that Nintendo 64, PS1, PS2 kind of like platformers, kind of like that golden age of platformers, because it's a very simple design. But when I say simple, not in a bad way, far as it's easy to get kind of wrapped in this universe, because it's like you're there. There's no map, there's no nothing. So you're looking at these platforms and you're kind of looking at everything around you. And I do feel like I was like in that desert, and I was like this little rolling insect, but like, Android. And I say in 2021, I would say that's something like a lot of, I would say, games are like, it's more on the, well, how can we like do this kind of stage? And I would say in all games, fighting games, story games, platforms, how can we make this like the most crazy, the most random stuff out there? And I would say it's refreshing playing a game like this, where it's the world, you feel the world, the mechanics are fun, and it's a simple, easy on the eyes, it's beautiful to look at, and it's very easy. I was doing a stream yesterday, and I almost kind of overdid my my pre-production, because I was just sitting here like, yo, this is kind of addictive. I text Seuss, I was like, yo, this game is really cool. I was like, this game is really hot. Yeah, I was very
been texting
impressed
about it for a while, like last, I would say 2-3 days on it. And since yesterday, it was one of the main points he drove home was how beautiful it looked. And I'm definitely glad I got to sit and play it today. And I definitely agree, very grassroots as far as gaming, because one of the reasons why I gravitate more to Nintendo in general is because of that, because I feel that the games that are on Nintendo systems, especially the Switch, no exception, it has a very high gameplay focus. And
yeah, totally.
Glyph definitely has that as well. So definitely big props to the game that you guys have created, and we're gonna do everything we can to let our audience know that it's out and everything else, because everybody needs to play this game.
Also, it's on sale. It's on sale, right? Because I got I got mine on I think it was $13.99, if I'm not mistaken, or $12.99.
Yeah, it's 30% off at least.
Yeah, it's 30% off right now. So definitely
I think it clocked out about 14.
Yeah, I think it's about 14 with tax. So you're gonna get, with $14, you're gonna get a certified, really addictive platformer. So to all our fan base, all the waffleholics, everybody at Bars and Joysticks, please check that out. Be on the Nintendo Switch. I heavily recommend it.
One next question. One thing, your company's name, forgive me if I'm about to butcher it. It's Bolverk Games.
Bolverk Games.
Bolverk,
yeah,
okay.
Bolverk. Yeah, both works.
Okay,
fine.
And you guys are based in Denmark, right?
Yes.
This is one of the most important questions I personally feel I wanted to ask about during the interview. What, coming over and doing the Nintendo and preparing your game for the Nintendo Switch, you guys are based out in Denmark. What's the difference of the markets opposed to like Denmark, the United States, Japan, all the different countries? Like, what have you noticed that's the biggest difference between where you guys are located and maybe where we're located, like the United States? Is there a difference in and preparation as far as releasing a game, and certain things that you guys maybe had to, watch out for when making the game, or kind of like, this might be good for over here, but for a United States market, maybe we should kind of do more of this. You get what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally. Like the idea of localization, because in this digital age, the entire world is just like squeezed down to the size of like a fit in a pocket. At least it feels like that sometimes, because we feel like we're all so close and we're like, well, we might all just be talking the same language, have same expectations. But then when you start getting into like the small minute details, you're like, well, actually different countries find different things very appealing in different ways. But I think that's where the Nintendo system is so beautiful, because they have kind of like capitalized and like rebrand themselves like, well, games are fun. Nintendo is games for fun. And like I said, a strong mechanic focus on like innovation and trying to stay ahead, and also like just using the tools to create like things of a higher quality. So for us, that felt like a natural step of like trying to move this game onto the Nintendo system, as we kind of felt like the audience were like in the correct mindsets to appreciate this 3D platform we have put together. It started as a VR game available on Steam. And but there's something about the whole presentation just lent itself so well to like, it just feels like it fits into the Nintendo family somehow.
Wow, that's interesting that it actually originated as a VR game, because I would say I still feel that presence, because I would say the most overlooking, I would say the most selling point about this game is the levels in its kind of world. And I would say that's one of the biggest things of me playing a video game, is I want to sometimes for like this hour, 2 hour, 6 hour times I'm binging video games, is I want to feel like I'm sucked into kind of like a different universe, I'm in some sort of different reality. And that's interesting that started as a VR game. And one thing I would say that to kind of piggyback off of Seuss' question, and I would say you kind of answered a little bit too. Do you feel like the timing of a Nintendo Switch coming out around this time, when the Switch originally came out, what, Seuss, 16? Was that 16?
17,
right? 17. So being around for about 4 years, going on 5, how important has that been for companies like you guys, for like the independent developers?
Well, Bolverk had his early starts out in the VR production. They got our hands on like on the early Oculus Rift, and just like, well, this is practically magic. We need to see what we can do with this. And this actually began in a long trip of different games. The first one being called Kittypocalypse, a tower defense VR game where you have to blow up alien kittens.
That sounds like my type of lane. I like kittens and aliens, so I might check that out when I get a VR. When I get something VR.
But also that kind of explains like the approach, because it's a grassroots company that one thing is like playing games, but VR is really like putting it inside the setting. And I can of course not prove this, but I think it actually meant a lot for like the development of Glyph as the world come through, that you could kind of step in and kind of get a feel for the scope and the designs and the lighting and everything. And I think that actually turned out pretty good. I'm sorry if it seems distracted. It's because I have a cat right here, and
it's okay.
She hates the fact I'm ignoring her.
That's what I like about the Zoom presentation. It gives people like more of an authentic feel, man.
It's the closest we get to like sitting somewhere together, like as far as like at a desk with each other.
Raw and unfiltered.
I find that very fascinating that you guys started as a VR, like you guys kind of got your roots in the gaming genre with VR. Because one thing too mechanically that I really enjoyed, this was the most I ever used my right analog stick for camera switching. When I really started getting to the meat and potatoes of the tutorial, and like, okay, I'm on a horizontal path, and then I'm going to make this left turn. It's better for me to like switch my camera left. So that was another thing too. I was really adapted to the camera mechanics just as much as the rolling mechanics. And that makes a lot of sense that this first kind of like game was like a VR game, and you guys kind of like broke it down for the Switch. That's amazing. And that's interesting as far as really like kind of like playing this game and kind of like picking your brain and seeing where like a lot of the ideas started for this game. That's very interesting.
Now that's probably why I was falling off the cliff all the time.
Yeah, you didn't switch the camera. You didn't switch the camera again, because if you're like, because it tells you, it's like, yo, right analog stick, switch your camera. And then I was like, okay, let me see, because I always like to test how sensitive, because I play a lot of slashers, like hack and slash games. So I always like to test how sensitive the camera is.
Always rotate.
Yeah, like rotate. That's like always the first thing I do, and it's a really smooth rotation mechanic, and it's the most I've honestly used camera rotate mechanic in a game and it actually like being necessary and being like that's like one of the vital pieces of me beating this game and going to more levels is the camera rotation. So that's interesting that saying like the VR and those controls make sense and they work really good. They work really good handheld on this system. Really good.
Oh, trust me, like the first time we actually like tried to put it on the Switch because you're like, well, this is a completely new presentation and we use like computer monitors. You're like, okay, how does this work on this tiny screen? We're like, oh, thank God, it looks good.
It looks, a lot of developers in small and big, even the bigger guys, they've been like, like one is like, and I'm not trying to throw nobody out there, but one is like kind of like EA, right? Where now they're dropping Fortnite, now they're dropping these games, all these popular games, and all these bigger companies are like, oh, put it on the Switch now because the Switch is the most successful game system right now. Even with the PS5 and the Xbox coming out, the new versions of that, it's still selling the most units. And a lot of these developers were kind of laughing at this system. Now they want to get their bags into the system because they're noticing that the majority and the most diverse gamers are on this system. The most experimental gamers have a Switch. They're gonna put that $20 or $60 into your product just to have a different experience than they'll have loading something to their TV. Totally. So like that's cool that you guys are you guys are branching out, and I honestly can't wait to see what else you guys come out with in the future.
Absolutely.
I really
you got a few things, but I cannot talk about those.
Oh, of course. When you got you're the PR guy, you're the PR guy. So whenever you guys want to do your PR, you got bars and joysticks over here. And we'll talk.
You'll be the first to hear.
Okay, good. Then
we already like
last question.
we already totally. We already like one foot in the next game and actually always halfway to the third one.
Oh man.
But it's the thing that
we can't, and I'm sorry to cut you off. So we can't talk about any future games at all. And I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Not quite. There's it's just mostly like need to wait for the right moment. Like with everything else, it's all come by the presentation. And I would have put myself in a situation where I steal my own thunder, as we still have Glyph.
Okay.
to focus on.
Yeah. Okay. So
but we have some exciting stuff going on. We always ready for like trying the next thing out. Bolverk is all about trying the new things, like pioneering with the VR back in its early stages. We have all the new VR headsets, and now we are basically branching out to 2 new things. So I'm just like, wow, I did not see that coming at all. But it's just a team of people who are just like, I really want to try to do this. We're like, cool, let's go for it. Let's see how that turns out.
Interesting.
Glyph is our first like mainstream attempt to just like say, what if we just like produce like a non-VR, straightforward 3D platformer for a popular system? See what happens.
I think that was an interesting step you guys made, because I've talked to people that are really deep into VR, and they're like really deep into VR. They're like, yo, I got bodysuits.
Oh, I know there's people.
Some people they're like, and they told me they're like, bro, we've had conversation about video games. You sound like you're somebody that really likes to game a lot, and they were just like, don't do it. They're just like you're gonna ruin your life. They're just like, you're gonna go off the rails. They're like, but that's interesting that and kind of talking about a little bit VR, but do you in the VR aspect, just kind of talking about you guys company as a whole, is that some like, do you have these on Stadia or like the PlayStation VR? Or what's the other one? The Oculus? Like, are these where the marketplaces for these games are at, as far as these VR games you guys produce?
If you go looking for Kitty Apocalypse, and also our second and third game, Dick Wild.
Wait, what? Can you repeat that one?
Dick Wild, spelled WILDE, 1 and 2.
So there's 2 of these.
Because there is so much more to do, and in this game's case, more stuff to shoot. It's practically a first-person VR shooter.
Okay.
Playing in the southern parts of the United States, shooting anything that moves. In co-op.
In co-op. So me and Seuss can play this game in VR. Well, it sounds like I'm missing out on VR right now.
Yeah, same.
I'm definitely, when I get anything VR, you guys will be the first publishers,
gonna
I'm
have to
getting signed
contact
off
you
because that's some
definitely.
interesting games.
Sure.
Just
That's
give
some
me a
interesting
call.
games.
We can go through the
Whenever I
list.
upgrade to a VR console, I'm going to check those out. Yeah, because
Nice.
VR is the only thing I've said. I have a couple other friends with like gaming computers and stuff, but VR is like the only thing I haven't like dove into yet, and I'm kind of scared. But definitely turn about
And-
those games. I'm gonna test those out.
Yeah, look it
One
up, rapid.
thing that I wanted to for the next question, it was funny that we actually this served as kind of like a prequel, I guess, to this question. How did your company get their start in game development? And then also, how did that kind of look into, okay, this is absolutely, we need to make this game, Glyph. So how did you guys get your start as a company? And what led to making Glyph? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's two questions mixed into one, but it's fine because it kind of follow the same trails. We'll just take it from the beginning. Well, as I've already hinted at, the whole thing started mostly in the VR in regards to getting our hands on technology. Free guys, not me included. Some of the originals. The forefathers of the company,
the fathers, the heads at the table.
they're all fathers. Sat down and started working on this VR and see what they can get from here, and mostly just experimenting. And this was back in the early days. I think it was 2015, 14, like back when it was still like.
And that's when VR
fresh.
Was very expensive and very fresh idea, and there was a lot of technology coming out for that.
They got their hands on developer kit, and they're like, okay, what can we do with this? And I can only imagine they spent a lot of time working back and forth, getting their hands on this. And it all resulted, as I said, in this first VR shooter, a tower defense game called Glyph, which is a fantastic name. It's so brandable.
Yeah, it's so good. I want that on a t-shirt, like right now.
Yeah. And it moved through a series of VR productions as Dick Wild and others moved into some other productions. And at some point, because the company, I don't know if this is a very Danish work structure, if it's actually very some happening too, but sometimes you get a feeling that like the internal hierarchy of the company is very flat, because we don't want to push down a good idea just because it comes from the newest employee or the way around. So it was actually something that happened through we call like eternal game jams, where just like everyone with an idea, let's make some games, let's see what sticks, let's see what's fun. And Glyph did not win the game jam. They actually decided to move towards with this different game, which title eludes me. It's something with A. And they started like, okay, we start with pre-production, we get people working on this. But then people would keep going back and playing Glyph, which back then was called Rollerball. And it was just, we kept being distracted by this one idea that was apparently not good enough to win, but apparently like this addictive nature that you brought before just allowed us to put it away. We're like, all right, let's see where we can go with this. And then it ended up being the production we worked on top of, instead of the other one, it was just like canceled and just moved on with Glyph instead, because there was something there that was worth exploring.
I would agree to that, because that was one of the most surprising things was how addictive this game could get. Like seriously, if I wasn't like a little bit busy the last couple of days, I would be like, it's one of those games like, you're just like into it. Next thing you know, you're like, well, the sun's kind of going down a little bit. What's going on? What's going on, man?
There's so many levels, and then when you unlock a new area, you're like, well, now I need to check out these new levels I just unlocked, and then you play those, and you unlock the next 4 ones.
Oh wow!
And the temple grows and grows.
Yeah, because that's the most exciting thing.
Progression.
That's the most exciting thing, because I've seen the trailer before, just kind of like collaborating with the communicating with the brothers over here in Bars Joystick. Seen the trailer. And I was very impressed by the trailer visuals. Then I download the game, load it up. I'm like, beautiful. And I would say that's the most exciting thing as I continue to play this game, is the level progression and seeing how more abstract these worlds get. And as I progress in this game, that's one thing I am looking forward, because I'm like, yo, I'm just like in this like sand Doombox thing going on right now, and it's awesome. Like it's awesome. Like, yo, I'm trying to avoid this lava, because if I fall in this little lava box, I'm gonna die. So I can't wait to see how you guys and playing this game more, how like certain worlds and the platforms adapt to these worlds and these settings, and how difficult it gets more with the game and the mechanics, and how that all meshes together. So I'm very excited to continue.
Yeah, there seems to be, and there's a reward system that's going on with the game. And that actually links into the next question, but I'm going to let you answer that because, you know, you're obviously a developer on the game. What do you feel sets Glyph apart from every other 3D platformer, such as a Super Monkey Ball?
Well, of course, that's the million-dollar question, because we live in an industry with more than 72,000 games on Steam, and with 800 new games coming out every day, and with free games coming out on Switch every day, 200 platformers a year. There's always the thing about like moving beyond innovation and trying to be the next perfect thing or new exciting thing. But as always, especially from my background, there's always been like the rule of like functionality versus design, where you had to find the balance between the two. In regards to like, if I had to point out to, okay, what makes Glyph special compared to most 3D platformers? It actually comes down to a very simple concept of like no power-ups. You get your entire moveset presented and utilized basically through the tutorial by itself. And when you move into the hub world and the temple, you have given all the tools you have at your disposal. And now it just comes down to you like, coming down to your own skill base of just like mastering these and the finality, because there actually is differences between how you execute a jump and how you use the smash and how a wall jump can be utilized. But that's for you to explore and find out. And based on like your pacing and your patience and your approach to levels, this can take both long and a short time. And you might find things you haven't ever thought about you can doing. Doing alpha testing, we actually had a player who routinely break the game by going somewhere he was not supposed to go, because we had not considered how he could utilize this moveset to get to parts of the level we not thought about.
Oh,
so it's always
wow.
like, so we gave them all the tools to play with, and then we just let people go in this big crazy world and like go have fun. It's beautiful in regards to like, it's basic like Minecraft. You're like, I don't dictate how you have fun. Here's your moveset, go crazy. There's not a special hat that'll make this easier. There's not a power up that'll make this jump further. You just have to rely on what you know. And then we just allow people to explore and find out. And I think the satisfaction, of course, this can be a turner for some people, but I think for the people who stick to it, the satisfaction of figuring this stuff out and like, haha, they did consider you could do this with a wall jump to get over there. I don't think so. I found that out. The game didn't tell me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because rolling through and then finding out I could jump through stuff, and then I found out that I was jumping a little bit too high. So then I did something. I think I had my left analog stick held down just a little bit. So when I jump, I just brace myself just a little bit so I won't get kind of too like ecstatic and kind of fall off the platform. So that was something I already started noticing before we did this, before we did the interview, was those aspects that there isn't no power-ups. I was kind of waiting for that gimmick. I was very surprised I didn't see that gimmick, because that's one thing I was like, okay, so I'm rolling around, but where is the power-ups? Where's the big, you know, Android ball? And I didn't see any of that. And it was a refreshing experience that it is just, hey, this is the platform, this is the mechanics. What can you do to achieve to get to the next level? And I find that very refreshing with a lot of platformers, with a lot of those gimmicks, and there is a market for platforming games on all consoles.
Oh, sure.
And I do think Glyph is in this pocket where it's its own little special thing. It is, and
thank you.
And I hope you guys seriously continue to make more platformer games, man, because I'm really interested to see what you guys would do, because it's a smooth game. I'm one of those gamers where I don't need 4K ultra graphics to have a great experience. I'm more so mechanics and story and world. Those are like the three things that kind of get me into a game, you know? So
the timeless aspects, the ones that'll stay good 20 years from now, when the graphics will look hilariously outdated, no matter what we do. We could do ray tracing in 4K, and we could use a much more sophisticated engine, and we could use sand particles and wind and have 10,000 things moving around. But the only thing will serve is just like in 10 years it'll look ridiculous. While these the simplicity of what we're working on now hopefully will look great even years from now, just because it was just the attention to detail using a limited color palette or simple designs
Yeah,
But I
it's a
totally see. But I
very
can
beautiful
totally
game.
imagine you like, these skins. I'll get those and get the super power ups so I can do the triple jump. Nope, that's not.
Nope, nope. It's
there's no
like
such thing.
it's like nope. It's like, dude, if you got to jump a little bit higher, figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out. Because I started getting to the point where I had to go more on sort of the aerial parts of the game, and that started. I was like, oh wait, this just got really tricky. I have to jump up and then trying to brace my jump and then jump up a couple blocks, then to go to the other like the other 3 blocks. And I was like, yo, this is getting out of hand. I was like, yo, this is kind of getting out of hand. But it was addictive trying to figure out, okay, what is my style? What is the way I'm going to play? And I really appreciate that for me being a gamer and you being a developer and providing that experience, because I would say something that's very overlooked now, I would say for a lot of game developers in any kind of stature where they're at, is sometimes simple is not a bad route to go. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes simplicity
in general,
really, this game is a great example of how simple, subtle, but really beautiful looking and really good mechanics can really provide a really unique experience gaming wise.
Often it reminds me of something a YouTuber once said. I cannot remember which one right now, but he said something always stuck with me, where he just like, in these modern games, they always had to like turn the graphics up to 100. That has to be the top priority because they need the nice screenshots. They need their trailers for E3 and similar. It's like, what would happen if you just turned that down to 40% and just focused the other ones to 100 to see what would that do for the gaming experience for people like, and there's plenty of games where they have done that. I feel like a RimWorld for me is like one of the better examples of just like, what if you just like simplify the graphics, but just like go absolutely crazy with everything else and see where we can actually, where will we hit the ceiling then?
Last question to wrap it up. And I know that you had said that you can't give us too much, but I'm going to try to squeeze you just a little bit, man. Just try to be patient with me. Can you see doing any DLC for Glyph in the future, in the near future? Being on the Switch.
Glyph has a roadmap. We have many ambitions. We want to go so far. Don't you think we love being on the Nintendo Switch? We love Glyph. We love this universe. We love this thing we built. And when it comes to like ideas, we actually had like pretty serious talks even before the launch. Like, okay, what happens if we actually can continue working down this route? Where would we bring Glyph next? What would make sense for this game? And I cannot say what it is, but the idea is just like there's still plenty of stuff to explore. And I think it might go beyond just adding more levels. I actually think we can find some good ideas to like, okay, you guys did not see this coming. Let's turn it upside down or something like that. And just see what we can do.
That's what I'm trying to hear. Yeah. Anything to make it more, anything to just captivate the audience's interest is always just the best route to go for sure. And I definitely feel that in general, that was a theme of what we've talked about here. And I think, you're definitely the first dev that I've ever met. So yeah. I definitely appreciate you sitting down and kind of speaking with me and Paco today. And it was really, I would, for lack of a better word, I know it might sound like a 5-year-old, but it was like a treat, man, because not only are you the first game developer I've met, but I've took a very big hiatus from gaming for several years because I felt it was more about graphics and more about the game looking pretty and just amping the power up instead of just making a great game. When I was sitting down as a kid playing video games for hours, I wasn't worried about the game looking good. In fact, the fact that you'd have people that would get extreme headaches, I think, because of the pixel rate and everything else, I think that was a testament that it didn't matter how good the game looked. You know, it was about, could you get wrapped up in a game for hours? And just sitting with you, and that's your team's approach, it really, really restored a great bit of my faith in things.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. That's like the best compliment I could get.
Want to say anything before we go off? Do like a last little bit of thoughts?
Nah, let's keep it casual. It's been nice being here tonight. And if you guys are curious about Bolverk or Glyph, I'm sure you know how to use Google and you can track us down.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Do you guys have an Instagram, and what's your Instagram?
Yeah, you guys got any social medias we can shout out real quick?
Mostly if you go for Play Glyph, both on the Facebook and Twitter and the Google, you cannot help but find us. I made sure of that.
Good work, brother.
SEO, I love it. This is Michael Seuss, Paco Escobar, and our friend RJ from Bolverk Games. And we will catch you later. Definitely check out Bolverk Games social media and definitely connect with us at Bars and Joysticks. Their Twitter has a lot of different things as far as Glyph goes. So definitely please check them out. We will link everything in the description. Subscribe to us to keep up to date for everything else, including Paco Escobar's Gas or Mid Glyph review coming up. All right, we will catch you later. Have a great day.
Peace.
All I ever wanted was an art ball. Shorty never hated me. She acted, she an art whore. I'm a black bull of white paint inside the art store. Ask today who the aces in this cardboard. Taji aces gloves. Taji aces crazy. Your girl thinks she good at head. I told that bitch she lazy.